This is the Tree of Life, Season 18, Chapter 1. In this episode, we will be talking about digital dominance as a manifestation of domain expansion with respect to substitution events. To start out, in Season 17, Episode 6, we talked about how digital dominance involves the precedence of the digital structure linked stream, which is non-contextual, and non-local over the analog linked stream, which is contextual. This distinction was used to explain how your self-representation and perceived objects of consciousness can be disconnected from your actual physical vessel, while still perceiving that vessel as existing within a continuous linear contextual stream. In this episode, we will be talking about how digital dominance is a manifestation of the expansion of the domain of a substitutionary choice corresponding to a single analog structure to similar, that is, non-exclusive contexts. Since analog structures represent a choice, whilst digital structures correspond to exclusive word associations, when two digital structures, which describe a multitude of behaviors, are transformed into substitutionary impulses within an analog structure, a number of predictable things occur. Number 1, the resulting analog structure can only maintain one of the two substitutionary impulses within an affirmational valence. Thus the resulting valence states must alternate as between parallel structures. Number 2, since the digital structures describe two large sets of behaviors, the substitutionary relationship between their impulses after the fact means that fewer analog structures are necessary to describe distinct contexts. That is to say, that the single analog structure can describe all similar contexts corresponding to the digital structures. Thus it makes sense that domain expansion reduces the ratio of analog to digital structures, thereby eliminating the occurrence of negational valence and longer strings of parallel structures. Thus, domain expansion atomizes larger structures, but they also result in the anchoring of a number of seemingly distinct contexts, albeit similar, into a single analog structure. Domain expansion is not, however, a natural phenomenon in the context of reverse substitution events. The nature of the substitution of some external object before and after the substitution event will reflect the expansion of the domain of a pre-existing analog structure. So in other words, if impulse 1 usually occurs in a digital structure parallel to an analog structure, which is of an affirmational valence, and if impulse 2 usually occurs within a digital structure parallel to an analog structure, which is of a negational valence, then prior to the reverse substitution event, the digital structure will affirm impulse 2 and negate some dialectical impulse to 2. After the substitution event, the resulting analog structure will affirm impulse 1 and negate impulse 2. In this way, the negational valence and affirmational valence are possible only in alternate phases. This also means that atomization results within one phase, linked to a high ratio of digital to analog structures, owing to domain expansion. That's the end of the podcast for today.